And now it's time for another edition of What Would Jello Do? And I've tried and I've tried and I've tried not to post up a bunch of these about the ridiculous claims being made in what some people call the silly season, the primary circus, funded in large part by what is now an election industrial complex where $1 billion may be spent on either side in the form of legalized bribery to see who we see on TV for the next 4 years as the figurehead president and how many other offices can be bought by the Koch brothers, oil companies, or whatever. But look what has been going on, where we've had things like Michelle Bachmann would cure you of homosexuality, and Herman Cain, a small-time pizza executive of a chain that failed outside a small area of the country. They were taken seriously, in part to keep it all in the news and make Mitt Romney look like less of an actual Tea Party mentality extremist than he actually is. He has endorsed personhood amendment in Mississippi, where the minute there's I go down there or whatever, it's a kid and has full human rights, and even if somebody accidentally has a miscarriage, you can try to prosecute them for murder. Romney is down with this too. And then we get to the guy who even looks like a pig and who at one point wanted to take black kids out of their homes in D.C. and put them in orphanages, Newt Gingrich. The one who said we should get rid of child labor laws so we could fire school janitors as if they're the ones draining our economy and replace them with child labor so-called volunteers to educate them for a prime place in the workforce. Molly Ivins, the late great columnist, had a great term for Newt and his followers, Newtsies. And right now, there are a hell of a lot of Newtsies all running for high office, including Willard Mittens Romney. Yeah, and they're all in a game right now of Humpty Tea Party on the wall, who is the Newtsiest one of all. And mainly, they know even if they lose, they're shifting the debate to, well, maybe we should ban contraception. Maybe we should take away even more reproductive rights for women than we already have. Exhibit A, Virginia now. Maybe we should, like all the Republican candidates, including Romney, are saying, let's go to war with Iran. And then all of a sudden the debate shifts where Wolf Blitzer, I wonder if that's his real name, even before he was in some metal band we never knew about or something, think, well, yes, it's very serious. You know, there's talk of war. We could be going to war soon. This is how they got the snowball rolling with Iraq and the staged Gulf of Tonkin incident in Vietnam. Now they're saying we should go to war with Iran. And I hope the current commander-in-chief sure as hell isn't listening to them. This is where shifting the debate gets dangerous. Just how stupid is it to try and conquer Iran? Look how well we did trying to conquer Iraq. Look how well we're doing clinging to whatever it is we think we're clinging to in Afghanistan. We can't even conquer Afghanistan. We couldn't even conquer Somalia, for crying out loud. Besides, the best way to win a war is to prevent it in the first place. Glad we didn't invade Libya, aren't you? No oil in Syria, so we're not going to go there either. But Iran? Come on, people. How stupid is it to try and conquer Iran? Let's look at a few basic facts. It's almost 3 times the population of Iraq. And they hate our guts 300 million more times than the Iraqis ever did. Ah, well, we greeted as liberators. Not this time. Iranians have not forgotten that the reason they've lived under so much horrible, violent repression for over 50, 60 years, pretty almost, is because when they tried to become a democracy on their own, we didn't want no democracy. Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh was overthrown by the CIA as a favor to British Oil, you know, BP as we now call them, in something called Operation Ajax, and he was replaced by the most hated person in the entire country, the Shah, who we then armed to the teeth with all kinds of weapons, including what are now being used to help start the nuke program. And he used them primarily on his own people with all kinds of torture and killings, even killings outside of Iran. And we kept protecting him. And then when he was finally overthrown, we think, oh my God, we got to find a new Shah. We need a new bully to help control that oil in the Middle East. Saddam, buddy, Pal, you can be our new Shah. We will tilt toward you, and we will aid you in what turned out to be an 8-year war against Iran that killed almost 1 million people. Who was the go-between to sign the deal with Saddam Hussein? Donald Rumsfeld, who even gave him a special token of our appreciation, some golden spurs. The Iranians have not forgotten this. And then, if you think we're going to waltz right in and do all this shock and awe, and the tanks are going to roll into Tehran, which is the northern part of the country, look at a map. It's not just the size of the country. Unlike Iraq, it is very mountainous, kind of like a smaller version of parts of Afghanistan. Good luck just rolling in and declaring mission accomplished with that. And then, look at what is the southern border of Iran. It's water. It's the Persian Gulf and a little bit outside the Persian Gulf and a real narrow bottleneck called the Strait of Hormuz, where 40 to 60% of the oil used by people all over the world must pass in 2 ship channels. How narrow is the Strait of Hormuz? I kept looking and looking, government documents, and nobody knew for sure. Some said 20 miles, some said 30 miles, one said 8 miles. So let's say, okay, 30 miles at its widest. Very easy place to blockade. They've done it before during the Iran and Iraq war, and they know that they don't even need to sink a single ship with all those little attack subs they've been buying up and deploying in the Gulf. All they have to do is threaten to sink one, and none of the others will move. Smart. Real smart. And we go after Iran, even one bombing campaign, even though we don't have no idea where their alleged nuclear weapons are. We are in a showdown face-to-face with Russia and the dictator that Clown Prince W used to refer to as Pooty Poot. Yeah. Even General Wesley Clark, remember him, said, you know, we try to invade Iran, that's a mousetrap in the Gulf with our soldiers as bait. I just hope that Obama actually listened, and I just hope that the report is actually true, that when Robert Gates was still working for George W. Bush before he was Obama's Secretary of Defense, that he threatened to resign if Bush launched an attack on Iran and tried to get us in there like they were in Iraq. Granted, the guy supposedly running Iran is a real nut job. He's like the Sarah Palin of Iran, only from the Shiite point of view, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who's got all kinds of doomsday cult leanings and, oh yeah, I've been hanging out with the 12th Imam. Just last week we text each other all the time. He's coming back. Join me in the end of the world. But remember, Ahmadinejad is not the real power in Iran. He's the front man. He's the guy they put on television to catch all the bullets and spears. Anything he does can be vetoed, overruled at any time by the controlling group of clerics, the mullahs, led by Ayatollah Khamenei. And they use Ahmadinejad as a front where when there's a gas shortage, economy goes bad, and it has been for years there, people all go after Ahmadinejad instead of the Ayatollahs, and then when he looks like he's in trouble, he rattles his saber and starts taunting King Kong and, oh, the Holocaust never happened, oh, we're going to attack Israel, we're going to attack America. It's all just their version of cartoon McNews, for all practical purposes. I just hope that the report from the old chief UN weapons inspector before we invaded Iraq, Scott Ritter from several years ago, has some truth to it, that Ayatollah Khamenei has gone on record saying that nuclear weapons are un-Islamic. There may be some truth to this because according to because all of Iran's nuclear facilities are monitored by the United Nations, and according to Steve Cole in the New Yorker, in February, they have found no military use in any of them. You know, you've got to get uranium enriched up to 90% to even try, and they are not anywhere near that. So again, dangerous propaganda going on here. Why are we doing this at all besides posturing for primary season and silly season? Well, we've needed some enemy, some boogeyman, and you can't use North Korea all the time. Remember when Clown Prince W had Poland and the Czech Republic convinced that we should put our missiles in their countries in case Iran attacked them, as if a priority in Iran was to attack Poland? Luckily, public pressure in those countries drove that out. Another reason is already oil companies are using possible problems in Iran, possible war, to jack gas prices ever further up without a peep coming out of the Barak-Star administration about this. And another reason is to help fund our sales of arms and our big military industrial complex companies who just sold $3.5 billion of missiles to the United Arab Emirates just in case Iran attacked them or something, then $30 billion worth of fighter planes to the Saudis, as well as all the other weapons we sell them that will be primarily used against their own people, just like the Shah did in Iran when Arab Spring finally really starts to grow in that country. We also, by the way, just sold a ton of arms to Bahrain, which next to Bashar Assad in Syria, the ruler there is just about the most bloodthirsty one around, but wait till you meet the Saudi royal family and all their American weapons. So, if we really are serious about wanting Iran to give up any ambition to have nuclear weapons, and with all the threats we make against them, surely we can see why some people wish they had them as a counter and a deterrent. Would they really want nuclear weapons if Israel gave up their nuclear weapons? And for that matter, maybe the United States could give up nuclear weapons too. That's the way to prevent a Holocaust involving Iran.